Hey everybody, and welcome to LEIA'S Lair. Here's our discussion of Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, Season 1, Episode 1, Directing. So the premise of this show is to be like a behind-the-scenes documentary of the processes behind Season 1 of The Mandalorian. So this episode focuses on each of the directors and the ways they go about filming their episodes.
So it's basically a roundtable discussion. We have creator Jon Favreau, who's facilitating a discussion with all the directors. So we have Dave Filoni, DEBORAH CHOW, FAMUYIWA, Bryce Dallas Howard, and TAIKA Waititi. So we find out about their different backgrounds, what has led them to Star Wars or to work on The Mandalorian, and sort of just the different challenges that they've had or that they've overcome in directing of this season.
So each director kind of gets a chance in the circle to talk about, how they got into directing, how they first kind of heard about Star Wars, and just in general, the challenges and stuff they faced leading up to this point. So each of them kind of had an interesting point to make about their past. Dave Filoni went first, and he talked quite a bit about how he didn't even believe he got the job for the Clone Wars, how he thought he was getting prank called or something.
Yeah.
So
Dave Filoni, his background, he said his first show he did was King of the Hill.
Which is hilarious.
And then he did Nickelodeon, The Last Airbender. And he actually thought that Lucas, because it was Lucasfilm Animation who was phoning him, he said there's no Lucasfilm Animation, and the producer was phoning him he'd never heard of. So he actually thought it was Nickelodeon SpongeBob guys kind of prank phone calling him about it. So he just was very oh yeah, sure, George Lucas wants to talk to me, right? And then afterwards he found out that it actually wasn't a prank call. And he was very oh no, I'm your guy. I really loved hearing Dave Filoni's section. I think it was actually my favorite part of the whole episode.
I just generally like the guy because he's just your quintessential Star Wars nerd, and he's such a good person to have on a show like this because he, like they say in this episode, he's like an encyclopedia of Star Wars information.
Yeah, he's basically like a George 2.0.
Totally.
And even hearing his story about meeting George Lucas in the interview was great too. He's just I'm probably not going to get this job, but at least I can see I got to talk to George, and all these things that I was thinking about, what he was doing, I was correct. And so I think that was really cool. And he did a great job with the Clone Wars, which also just ended today. So shout out for that. Let's keep going on, I guess.
So then we have DEBORAH CHOW and how she really just loves sci-fi and fantasy, and she had a history in television before this point, and she was at the point where she started being able to choose more of the shows she wanted to direct, and she was super interesting.
Yeah, she definitely wanted. She was going on about talking about doing more action. So they were joking that she would always ask Jon Favreau, can we get some more stormtroopers? Just love blowing them up. I think that's great. If I was a director on Star Wars, I think I'd be doing the same thing. I'd be like, what, 10 stormtroopers? Give me 20 more. Come on, what are you doing?
Just more ways to give them brutal deaths.
Yeah, everyone loves to see the stormtrooper deaths or how they can't aim properly. So.
And
I
think it bodes well too, her working on The Mandalorian, because she is going to be the director of the Obi-Wan live action series. So knowing that she has experience working in Star Wars and knowing that it was on Mando, and Mando is such a great show, it really gives me the confidence in her ability to take on the Obi-Wan series.
That's going to be good. I'm probably going to screw this name up again, FAMUYIWA. But his section was really cool too. He describes how the first movie he ever got to see as a kid was Star Wars. His dad took him, and he didn't quite understand what all the hype was when he was a kid. And then when you see all these huge lineups and everyone dressing up and sees what it's all about, he said that was kind of where he's taken a lot of his inspiration from in his career. And it's just really cool because he even talked about being able to work with a live scale Sandcrawler and how cool it was, and I think as fans we can all agree that that would be just completely cool, just to be able to see any sort of like Star Wars things in live action and being able to work around them. I think that's all a dream for any one of us. So that's really cool to hear his kind of like personal side of that.
And his story resonates with me personally a bit too, because the way I got into Star Wars was watching the original trilogy as a kid with my dad. I mean, obviously it wasn't in theaters, but he had like the trilogy box set, and that's how we started into it. So when the prequel trilogy came out when I was a little bit older, I was already invested in the universe. So it's kind of cool just to see how Star Wars has had an impact on different people throughout their lives.
Yeah. And if you guys want to make a discussion also below, just let's hear how you guys got into Star Wars too. Let's make that a discussion, or just anything to do with this, what's going on with this show. And yeah, it's cool to hear even Bryce Dallas Howard's story about how she went with her famous father to Japan and got to meet George Lucas as a kid. And I mean, that would have been really cool for any Star Wars fan, except that she fell asleep.
Yeah, I guess they went for dinner with George Lucas, and dinner went a little bit later than the 5-year-old self, her 5-year-old self could handle, and she fell asleep. But I mean, even she had such an early Star Wars inspiration, like early Star Wars meeting. So it's pretty cool. And I think this was like one of they were saying how they put her in episode 4, which was probably one of the hardest episodes to direct because there was so much going on. It was water, it was forest, there was lots of extras, and she just nailed it regardless. So
yeah, that was a really great episode, and it brought the Baby Yoda soup scene, so everyone loves that.
Obviously.
And it was really cool to kind of hear her talking about Jurassic Park and how she was such a big fan of it. It was like, she's like, oh yeah, like Jurassic Park is just building off of what Star Wars has started in special effects. And then it's funny because then she goes on and does Jurassic World. So it's like, that's a project that she probably really wanted to do. So that was really cool to hear about that as well. And then we got Taika Waititi. And he has his comedic background, and you can really tell this because he kind of works his comedy into the action without actually making fun of it, as they say. Such as Baby Do the Magic Hand thing.
That was like probably one of my favorite scenes in the entire series.
Yeah, I mean that was great, and it didn't take away from the seriousness of a big TIE fighter coming in on them, but
it just added that comedic relief that we needed. And he said that he kind of worked always on like really low, like budget films. Yeah,
like just plays and anything he could get his hands on, he had to kind of work with, like make do with what he had. So you can tell he's very he's able to improvise really well.
Yeah.
And I think that's great addition.
I think it's also pretty cool because we just got some news today that Taika Waititi has been slated as a director for the latest or newest Star Wars film that's going to be coming out. So obviously, he did a good job with The Mandalorian to land that gig, so that'll be awesome.
Yeah, still no news on what it could be, but we have high hopes.
Yeah, if they got him directing, then it's going to probably be pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's going to be definitely a good film to see.
But yeah, overall, it was a thoroughly enjoyable 30 minutes. I mean, it was super interesting to learn kind of some of the behind-the-scenes, like fun facts that you might not have known had you not watched this, and I know I'm personally looking forward to seeing some of the other behind-the-scenes things they're going to go over, especially Baby Yoda. But
I think everyone's waiting, and I have a sneaking suspicion that's going to be like the last episode, just a complete Baby Yoda episode, because everyone will be wanting that.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, it's gonna be cool to see more behind the scenes. Look at how Mando season 1 was done, because yeah, it's a fan favorite here. So.
And there you have it. Thanks for watching, everyone. What did you think of this episode? Let us know down below in the comment section. And remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more great videos to come. We hope to see you all again in Leia's Lair.
You are not a Jedi yet.